like come up with an intro in my head and just keep saying it in my head until everything starts.
Yeah, I think we got it.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I think we are.
Yeah. Okay.
What's up, Universe, and welcome back to the web's first must-see comic and nerd culture show. Welcome to Comic Universe, and today we got a special treat for you guys. It's not just me; it's also Jay. Dr. J
Yep.
is on the line with us.
What's up, guys? I'm just gonna be a disembodied voice today. Not in my normal location. I'm currently in an undisclosed secret location.
And he's in the Batcave. Don't let him fool you.
Well, I mean, you haven't seen Batman or I in the same room,
That
so
is true. That is very true, and I've been wondering that. All this time, man, I didn't know.
yeah. I mean, hey, I clearly don't make money off of YouTube, but Wayne Industries
Neither do
plays
we. Neither do I.
plenty.
So it's okay. Not
Yeah,
yet.
I was gonna
We're
say
working
Wayne
on
Industries
that.
plays plenty well.
Right? And funny enough, speaking of Batman, today kind of has our topic today. We actually have a new segment that we're rolling out for the first time, guys, and this is called What If. And this is where we're going to take a random topic, sometimes dealing with comic books or nerd culture or whatever, and just talk about what if it was this particular way, if you will. And today's topic actually involves our boy Nightwing. And we're talking about what if Nightwing actually had a genuine sidekick? What would that be like? What would be the storylines and the plot threads that lead to this particular subject, if you will? And me and Jay just were randomly talking one day, and it just like clicked, and we're like, man, we put together this whole like story.
Yeah, because the thing about
You know?
our background, you guys, like we met on a fan fiction site, so naturally, like our whole kind of thing goes back to writing itself. So coming up with these stories is pretty much second nature at this point. So like we just once the idea got into our heads, we just kind of went back and forth and came up with this whole kind of alternate universe like storyline.
Yeah, and honestly, it kind of really worked out and it made a lot of sense, and that's why we were like, we got to use this as the very first one. Now, to kind of start it off, the where it all kind of begins in our head, at least, is that with Nightwing, what if it was more like, where he kind of grew up to be like his father? And we all know, regardless of who his real dad was, Batman is his father. Batman raised him, trained him. Obviously, we all know this already. And a lot of times in life, it's like art resembles reality and vice versa. And in this particular theory, it's kind of the same thing. In my opinion, I think it would be really unique that if randomly we were to get some kid, okay, just out of the blue, kind of roll up on Nightwing's doorstep and, basically knocking on the door, and she's like, Dad, how are you? Or he's like, Dad, how are you? And just the whirlwind that would come from that, just that whole, and we all know he's promiscuous at best, if you will.
I mean, there's a reason his name is Dick.
Oh, literally. and we all know that the women say he has the best buns in comics, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so he's had many sexual partners and many sexual encounters that right off the bat he would automatically be thinking like, okay, which one? He's pulling out the little black book, making a phone call. It's like, hey, do we have a kid? Hey, do we have a kid?
He's just going through the alphabet like Ashley, Alex, um, Alexis,
Right?
Bridget.
I'm telling
Just
you, right? Just
yeah,
from power, he has like them listed like powered, non-powered, and he's just like going down the list. And then that's when Jay actually hit me with, there was this one time on a rooftop where something happened, and it just clicked. I was like, that's it. We gotta roll with that. And
yep.
let them know what you came up with.
Yeah, so it's one of the most iconic and infamous scenes in Nightwing's career. And fun fact, this is not the first time something like this has happened to a member of the Bat family. Something that I've always joked about is one thing that Bat family members should always carry in their utility belt is a rape whistle, especially the male members, because my God, there have been I know rape is nothing to joke about, but like there have been several times where male members of the Bat family have been raped, like drugged, like otherwise forced to have sex with women, and it does happen, people. It is a thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No matter how random it might seem, and it's actually happened to Bat family members on more than one occasion, on more than one platforms or medias, if you will.
Yep, and
So it's
yeah, and
not like
so like so this whole story comes from, I believe it was like in '99 when Nightwing was dealing with a female villainess that has always had a crush on him, by the name of Tarantula, and she drugs him and pins him down on a rooftop and straddles him, and yeah,
as one does.
yep, and one thing led to another, and bam, Nightwing wakes up next to an unmasked and next to this chick. Like, wait, did we just? I don't remember. What the fuck? Oh no.
Exactly. Exactly. So in our minds, it would be really interesting that if this were to actually come to pass in the actual DC universe, if you will, basically kind of simulating what it was like to must be Batman. You know, we get these undertones of Damian's relationship with Batman, and it now would be able to be played out with Nightwing and just kind of understanding where more and more where Batman comes from. Because there's so many times where the two of them butt heads. They're so much alike they don't even
And
realize.
especially when it comes to how Bruce raises Damian, because like Dick is always talking about how he's too hard on Damien. Like, you
Right,
should give Damien more of a chance, because he views Damien as his little brother. He's
right,
always gonna stick up for him and be like, "Hey, look, Dad, you're being a little rough on him. Go easy on him. He's just a kid.
right.
Like, it's not his fault that his mom drugged you and like forced you to have sex with her. But but
Exactly.
there's still that bit of trauma to Bruce that's always going to be in the back of his mind. Like, it's not that I don't want Damien, it's just that this is a reminder of this vulnerability in Batman. If there's one thing Batman doesn't like, it's being vulnerable.
Of course, yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny because he would get to see that, more and more of how Batman views, things. And he actually had, obviously, we all know he's had Damian as a sidekick as well. When he took up the mantle of Batman, Dick took up the mantle of Batman. So he's no stranger to actually having a sidekick, but having an actual sidekick that is now your flesh and blood, that's a whole new level of actual sidekickness, if you will. If that's
Yeah, and the extra layer that Craig came up with to add to this is that, like, Tarantula, whose name that I don't actually, whose actual real name I do not remember off the top of my head. What Craig has come up with is that Tarantula basically comes up with this fake history of, yeah, your last name is Grayson. Your dad knows about you. He loves you. It's just because he's a superhero and villains are after him all the time, we can't be together, and that's why he's not involved in your life. Um,
exactly. And so something happens to Tarantula, whether she's kidnapped or murdered or whatever the case may be. And now this poor child, I think it would be really interesting if it was a girl. Okay, just kind of change
yeah,
dynamics. But it could be a boy, it could be girl. It doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. But
I definitely think it's going to be a girl, because you know that old saying, like, the cruelest players and foulest heartbreakers in the world,
sure.
God gets them back by having precious little girls.
Exactly. And I think it would play out even more interesting if it was a girl too, because then Dick would be even more tentative to not want to teach this girl or any of the, just have her, if you will. And this girl would show up on his doorstep again, knocking on the door, and she's like, I know this is kind of random, but you're my dad. Um, and of course, he would be like, what? And as it all starts to play out, he would be trying to put two and two together. And when he's like, well, who is your mother? Okay. And she's like, this is when the girl would start to realize that he doesn't know who she is. So, this would now be a point in time where she would be heartbroken, scared, mad, alone, afraid, all of these emotions running through her mind and heart. And she would probably, like, let's say, take off. Let's say she ran up to the rooftop, and just kind of almost, and I think it would be just really poetic if that's where kind of their first real conversation takes place, is where, not necessarily where it all happened, but
Yeah,
rooftop, to where he can kind of maybe, he's not sure here, and he's starting to maybe piece the puzzles together, and he has to obviously have an understanding and figure out what's going on. He's going to have to put the pieces together, and I think that would be a really good storyline for all of us here at home, just to
Mhm.
get into and be like, whoa, what's going
Yeah,
on?
because and especially children of rape is definitely like a very interesting, and it's a subject that like not many mediums have tackled, whether it be books, TV, or comics. So like it's definitely, yeah, it's something that's very taboo, but it's also something that could lead to some very interesting character dynamics. Uh, will Nightwing reveal to his daughter that that he was raped? Like, because that would shatter her whole opinion of her mother, and like you
Absolutely.
know
And
that whole thing.
one of the things that I always thought was really interesting about Young Justice was, if you remember, how Superman kind of reacted and treated Superboy. And
Hmm.
even though it wasn't really his kid, it's still kind of the same concept where
Because it's using his DNA to create another person. Yeah.
it's a violation of one's rights and willingness. And it was always good where Batman was like, dude, you need to man up and take care of this kid. You need to be there for him. And it was one of my favorite things.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite scenes of Young Justice, where he said the boy needs his father, and I'm just like, yes, and I love that before that scene, you see a scene where Batman is playing basketball with Dick, and he's actually just being a dad, and I'm just like, yeah, see, Batman does know how to be a dad.
Exactly. And it would be so interesting now, once Dick did figure out what was going on, okay, and he realized that it was from this particular instance, it's as the person who was violated, it's very easy and it's a natural reaction to want to shun. Like, yo, I want no part of you. Like you were a violation of my human rights.
And especially because once he puts that together, it's gonna be definitely difficult for him to like not see her when he sees the kid.
And all those feelings that come with it. But what makes this whole scenario so interesting is obviously Dick is, in many ways, he's better than Batman, and in many ways, he's not. So this puts him in this situation where, you know, I have to do what's right here, no matter how much I don't want to. Maybe it's a conversation that he's going to actually have to have with Batman, and I think it would be really unique situation when he comes to Batman and he explains the situation to him, and Batman basically goes, "Son, I understand." And this would, I think, would be such an amazing
Hmm.
moment that we would get, especially depending on the writer, if you will. This just could be just like gold.
And
I,
I think it would be really interesting to see, Bruce's reaction to being a grandfather, because like, the classic stereotype with grandparents is obviously they let their grandkids get away with everything.
right.
So will he spoil the little girl the same way he would just any other grandparent? What's that relationship like? Will we actually see a softer side of Batman because, this
Yeah.
is his grandkid?
And I would like to think that you would. I think we would see a whole new side, because the idea of this actually happening wouldn't just change Dick's life. Like you said, it would change Batman's life. It would change all of the Robins' lives.
Hmm.
And let's just, clearly the girl would be about Damien's age as well. So in the fold of the Batman family, she would almost be like, even though she wouldn't be his sister, it would be almost being raised as sisters, if you will, cousins, whatever you want to call it. And there's an opportunity for Damien and this child to be, get really close, if you will.
Yeah,
And
and especially because I feel like she would definitely take after Dick in the same way, where she is like kind of a lighthearted, jokey kind of character, whereas Damien is this kind of like hardened assassin type. I feel like it could kind of be like in the similar vein of if you guys are reading Rebirth, how Superboy and Damien's relationship is with in Super Sons, John Kent.
yes,
Um so I think that could be really cool.
uh,
Um,
and it would be really interesting too, is especially if Tarantula had been murdered, if you will.
mhm.
Whole scenario is the legacy of the father continues into the son type of thing, or the legacy of the father continues into the child, where the same thing happened to Bruce is the same thing that happened to Dick, is the same thing that happened to her, even though
Yeah, he wants to help her find that same closure that Bruce helped him get. And going back to Young Justice again, one of my favorite scenes is when they're going over like whether they should let certain people join the Justice League, and they bring up Robin, And Wonder Woman says, you brought him into crime fighting at the age of 8. Why? So he could be just like you. And he says no, so he wouldn't. And that's exactly what Nightwing will kind of realize. And
Right.
because I don't think he's ever really kind of come to terms with the fact that Bruce brought him in so he wouldn't be like him.
Right.
I
So,
think like
oh,
his entire career, he feels like Bruce has been shaping him to be the next Bruce Wayne.
right.
But
I've never been the
he's a completely different person.
no, you're right. It's never been that way in Bruce's mind. It never was his intention for it to get this to it, have it to evolve to this point. It was never Bruce's intention. And on top of it, I think with her being a female, there would be more, and not that females are not capable by any means. That's not what we're saying here. But by her being a young female child, it would be more like Dick to not want her to get involved in this. And she was,
Mm-hmm.
someone killed my mom. My mom told me you were a superhero and you would stop him and help him. I want to find the man that killed my mom, or I want to find the person that killed my mom. You're a superhero. You're supposed to help me. And is where he has this dilemma. It would be another thing for him to have to deal with. Does he train her? Does he not train her? Is she already somewhat trained by Tarantula
Mm-hmm.
to a certain extent? And there's a story.
And also something that I want to bring up, especially when it comes to female superheroes, and Batgirl's a great example of this. Like female superheroes, like granted, like comics are an industry created by men, so of course the female characters are always like in some way, shape, or form going to be sexualized. So that Dick would also kind of take that into consideration as well. Like I don't want her to just to be somebody's eye candy in
Right.
skin tight spandex. Like there are creeps out there. I don't want her running around in a skin tight suit, just so like and have like some perv, you know, take advantage of that. Like
Absolutely.
that's definitely gonna be a factor. And again, I'm not I'm bringing gender into this where it's necessary. I feel like that would definitely come into the conversation.
Anyone who's a father or has had a father in their life would understand this, that though it's always you, the kid, as a kid myself looking up to your parents, there's parts of your parents that you automatically adopt. You just
Hmm.
no way around it. You adopt it. And then there are some things where you actively, you know,
Try to avoid it. Yeah.
exactly. And this is a situation where there's so many levels to this actual story that I wish that if someone from DC would ever see this video would make this happen. Because again, we're talking, this is not just affecting Dick, it's affecting everyone in the Bat family. Because now he's literally going to have to change. He can't just be this flamboyant guy that has sex with every tale that he sees, or whatever the case may be. He's going to have to be more of a role model for his own child, okay, and only allow certain women into his life that are going to be a part of her life. Again,
Hmm.
how does Batman and AKA Bruce Wayne deal with having a grandchild? Does he have a softer side, which I would like to see?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's the thing that intrigues me the most is like Bruce as a grandparent.
And Dick having to lean on Batman and have this conversation that he probably has wanted to avoid his whole life, where he actually has to have a conversation with the man of Batman, not the actual character of Batman. What I
And
mean,
I don't think Bruce has ever really considered like what he has done for Dick as fatherhood. So I think it would be a really interesting kind of revelation of like, wow, I really was your father. Like, you
exactly.
know, you know what I mean? Because like for a lot, I mean, there have been times where like Batman officially signs the adoption papers, and he considers Dick his son, but like he's never like outwardly acknowledge, yeah, you're my kid, you
That's
know?
part of the dysfunction in their family, is that it's
Mm-hmm.
never had a traditional father-son relationship, and there's so much that goes along with that, that it happens subtly, and it happens without either one of them realizing that, hey, he taught me how to be a man, not just to be this crime fighter, not just to be this skilled detective, not to, he taught me how to be a man. So I think it would mean a lot for Bruce for him to have this conversation. And I think this is what would open up Bruce to evolving as a character as well.
Yeah, and I think he would treat Damien better, like, because he'd realize, like, okay, this is
Exactly. It,
maybe I do need to be more open with my son. Maybe because I see Dick is able to have these conversations with his daughter, and they get along so well. Maybe I should try that.
yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting at. And it would change the relationship he has with him, and then even Tim, just looking in and being like, man, like just coming up to Dick and going, "I'm sorry. I mean, for you to have to face your worst, probably the worst thing that's ever happened to you, minus your parents dying in front of you, this whole violation of oneself, you know, Tim would find more admiration towards Dick, and Bruce and the whole family, if you will, just how good of a man it takes to accept this child. Okay.
Hmm.
And obviously, whether he trains her or not as his sidekick, just that fact that he accepts her.
And even bringing in like somebody like Jason. I mean, Jason is somebody who was discarded by his parents. Nobody wanted to take him in when he came to his dad. His dad didn't want anything to do with him. When he found his mom, nobody like his mom was a drug addict, so she couldn't take care of him. And the fact that Dick is actually able to step up as a man and take responsibility
Speak
for
volume.
something that wasn't even like for a kid that he didn't even plan, and like again, that was a product of this like gross violation. The
Absolutely.
fact that Dick is able to step up, I feel like that would really improve Dick and Jason's relationship, because if anything, if one thing Jason respects out of people is men that will actually be men, like
Right.
that actually like own up to who they are, and do what they have to do. So I think that would also improve their relationship, because their relationship has always been rocky, because
You
Jason feels like Dick kind of left him behind, after Tim came along, and he kind of forgot about him. So I think that's really interesting,
yeah.
and
It also
like
it also
having Jason develop a friendship with this girl too could be really cool,
right. He
because
gets the opportunity to be the cool uncle.
yeah,
We all have that aunt or uncle that just kind of he's like, here's you want ice cream for dinner? Okay, just don't tell your dad type of thing.
yeah,
He has that opportunity, and this could bring as much as we love Jason for being this absolute Terminator, if you will, this hardcore, rough as leather, tough as concrete character. It's you got to admit it's kind of intriguing to see him maybe have a softer side towards a person, okay, that he could understand. He could lean in and goes, I understand what it is like to lose everything and just randomly show up on this stranger's doorstep. That was my life. If I
hmm
was trying to break into the Batmobile or whatever the case may be, none of this craziness would have happened. I would have been probably dead on the street. So I understand. So there's a connection there that he
and the fact that his mom, her mom is a criminal, he gets that. He's like, no, I get it. She killed people. I've made that mistake. I regret some of the things I've done too. It's not her fault for making bad choices. We've all been there. Trust me, I know. And
exactly.
so because I feel like she would also kind of feel this kind of secondhand guilt for her mom, like, wow, she actually did all these bad things. What am I, how am I supposed to, what am I supposed to think of her now? And,
Right.
I think Jason could be the type of person that could help her kind of
Exactly.
get through that.
And this is something that now, as a character, and we're talking about all these different levels that stack onto this storyline, is the young girl now has to come to the realization that her mother, okay, was a villain, not a hero. Her dad, she lied to her about her dad not knowing who she is. Okay. And then, if she ever were to find out exactly how she was conceived, she could actually start to hate herself. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, Dick has to go really into dad mode and go, no, though you are not, you were not a planned situation, you're still,
Yeah, but you're not a mistake. Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and I'm telling you guys, like this is a level on top of level on top of level that would absolutely like change the entire Bat family. And I think this is something I wish and I pray to God that us here in the universe can maybe someday get this across to them. Because I think this is solid gold. Like
It has so much depth, and it can affect every single character in the family. It doesn't matter who you are, if you have any kind of connection to Batman, you would definitely understand this. And like I said, somebody else who you could go to, who he's also kind of looked at as a father figure, Superman. Superman's approach to this could be really interesting too, because Superman himself is also a father now, and his approach to fatherhood versus Batman's approach to fatherhood could also be a very interesting conversation.
Right. And then we go into the, again, since she would be in that same age bracket between Superman's kid and Batman's kid, that we could now, instead of having super sons, we could have super kids. Some
Yeah,
he's involved. Maybe Dick doesn't want to train her, refuses to train her, but Damien goes, I was in your situation. I understand. I'll help you. What if that's how it all goes down? And he is secretly training her.
and he takes like a big brother role. I think that could be really cool. Yeah,
Exactly. There's so many opportunities here, and even again, what if it's not Damien? What if it's Tim that goes, I understand, let's say Dick the way they write it, Dick shuns her at first, okay, while he's trying to cope with everything. And Tim or Jason step up and try to be the person she needs in her life,
hmm
so many different ways. Or it could go as well as, okay, well, Dick can't deal with it, so Batman has to step up and take care of her, like so many other grandparents in this world do.
yeah, exactly. Having Batman step up could be really interesting too, or even somebody who has a long-standing history with Dick. Barbara has trained several female, like strong female heroes, and it would be so cool if she was like maybe like even a fangirl of the original Batgirl, and it's just like, you know, oh wait, you and my dad were a thing, and then that kind of having that kind of moment, and then
You could be like,
interesting.
you could have been my mother type thing.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like when she realizes her mom was a villain, and she looks at somebody like Babs, she's like, "Well, I wish it was you." And then
And
it's that kind of connection.
or that too. And it's going to take a lot to, another layer to all of this is it, once she comes to the realization that her mom lied to her, that her mom did some terrible things and her mom is a supervillain, does she end up start like have this resentment and hatred towards her mom? And though she may be a villain, now someone has to step up and let her know, like, just because your mom did some bad things doesn't make her a bad mom.
And
You should.
doesn't mean she didn't love you. Like yeah, it's a very deep and very nuanced story. Like, and there's also that classic kind of thing is like your parents are villains. Your parent was a villain. Does that mean I'm going to be a villain? Type of thing.
This story beyond writes itself, universe. It just take the time to think about all the different things and how this would really affect. This is so much bigger than just Batman having another sidekick. The way we've plotted this out, it literally changes the landscape of the entire Bat universe. Does Barb get, like you said, does she get this connection with her and try to teach her, this universe that is filled with all these men, these strong men, especially in the Batman mythos, where she, before, well, I guess we have Batgirl too, or Batwoman, but she,
Mm-hmm.
so long was the single entity of feminine. She was the only one there dealing with all these macho guys, and we all know that Batgirl has had these crushes on both Batman and Dick. And as she grows older, these are situations that she's going to have feelings for other people. And how does she bring this across? you
Yeah,
know
and again, I think it'd be interesting to have Babs' involvement in this because she knows what even whether the girl chooses to be a hero or not. Babs has that experience of being in that world, so she knows what a girl would go through when they're going through this kind of hero's journey. Like yes, Dick would be able to relate more to a boy because that's what he went through. He can see through that lens, but you know as hard as you can imagine, like if you're not a girl, you're not gonna know what a girl goes through. So it's like
it,
it's the whole thing.
and then so many movies do it, where the single dad now has to kind of deal with, as a woman starts to be, or a girl starts to become a woman, and how do you deal with those type of pressures? And though they're not comical, they are very serious issues that a girl has to deal with. But it's usually played for laughs on the dad side of things, where he's like, I don't know how to fix your hair. I don't know how to tell you how to use that thing. And by that thing, I think we all know what I mean, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
this is, you know, these odd conversations that Dick's going to have with, let's say, Barbara, okay, or Barbara's going to have with her. You know, there's just so much to this that, you know, as we're just talking, it just keeps filling my head that how much I wish this was a thing. And I think this could be the biggest thing that happened to the Bat universe in years. Like, as big as the Dark universe was to the Bat family, I think this could be.
Honestly, this could be a bit. This would be a bigger event than the whole Batman Catwoman wedding that's been, you know, that they built up for like 50 issues or so.
Right, exactly, and then leave us with nothing.
I mean, dude, don't even get me started with that. But yeah, no, like, I honestly, like, and again, it's not just to be like, oh, we could do it better. I'm not even saying let us do it. I'm saying give it to a more capable writer.
It can happen. Well, that's all I'm saying.
Exactly. Give it to a more capable writer. You don't even have to credit us. If we see it happen, we'll know it's us, and that's all that matters to us.
Exactly. Now, want to hire us? That's a whole different story.
Yeah, right. Yeah, our email. We can send you our emails and resumes.
Absolutely.
Just give us the word.
Exactly. But I guess to kind of wrap this up, universe, is to really think about what would transpire all of this in how many years and how many different storylines we would go. You know, when the girl actually comes into her own and she starts to become her own hero, and she does come to the point where to stop the person that killed her mom, or, you know, does, like, let's say she, unlike every other Robin, he actually committed the murder. Like, she kills the guy that killed her mom. How does he deal with that? You know, is that something that happens? Like, that's a whole new, like, Batman has been able to avoid all of his Robins basically becoming his worst nightmare. What if she did it? As much as that sounds like a crazy thing, what if she?
Yeah, again, that would be really interesting. And again, that would be another big thing where Jason comes in, because Jason's like, that's something I've always wanted to do. Honestly, I don't think you're a monster. I think just have the balls to do what other people aren't.
What needs
And
to be done? Yes.
yeah, yeah. And again, like, that could be really interesting. Where instead of her becoming like Nightwing or Batgirl, she becomes the new Scarlet, and she teams up with Red Hood, and is Red Hood's sidekick. Like, and that would just be, again, her. She's in the, like, the 12, 13 range, so, rebellious teenager. What better way to say fuck you to dad than to go with, like, his annoying little brother?
Absolutely. No, seriously. So many avenues. And these are conversations that I think the heads of DC would have to sit down. And this is not something you could take lightly, because, again, this would be something that affects them for years to come. We're talking your kids are growing up and they're still dealing with some of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many stories that could be mined out of this, that, like, it's not just even her introduction. There's so much more going on after that can be built up afterwards.
Exactly. And again, universe, this is just the first of many what ifs that we have coming down the pipeline, but this is one we want you guys to think about. What do you guys think would happen? How do you think it would change the Batman family? Especially, Dick, how does he deal with it? Is he willing to accept, or is he not? If you were the one writing this, what do you guys think would happen? Because,
what directions would you guys take it in? Like, how would you want him to react? Who would you want him to go to? What kind of conversations would this lead to? Let us know all that in the comments. Like, we are very interested.
Yeah, for sure. And don't forget to like the video if you guys liked it. This way we know to keep doing things like this. And especially, we wanted to get DPZ on this video. We had some technical difficulties where we couldn't, but in the future, we're going to be trying to get some videos out where all three of us are on the line, and maybe we can all be on video as well, so you guys can hang out with us a little more. But guys, definitely, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all the support. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the video.
Please, somebody hit that subscribe button, because we're stuck at 666 right now.
One more, guys. Absolutely. Just one more to get rid of this the number of the beast. We're kind of afraid of it. We don't want to, get any bad mojo here with this number going. So, guys, and don't forget to click the bell to be part of the notification squad, guys, so you know when we drop a video. Like I've said before, we're such.
And you'll get notified when we go live too, so you'll be able to catch these right as they start.
You can be there with us the whole way, and we can communicate with you guys back and forth, guys. So till next time, guys, we'll see you
In the universe. Peace.
Peace.